Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
What's up, Doom Nation, and welcome back to another episode of the Two Doom Men podcast. As always, it's Skaggs and the Captain, and we have a very special guest today, our buddy Clint Russell. What's up, pal?
Oh, what's up, gentlemen? Just got back from the gym, ready to rock. Let's go.
There we go. I hit it pretty hard today as well. My back's kind of sore. So, Skaggs, how you doing? What do we got in store for today?
I'm good, man. I'm excited, Clint, to have you on. Clint is like a feature on our show for Tweets of the Week. We do a segment, Clint, where we pick out like what we think our best tweets are, and you're like a recurring theme.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
On Tweets of the Week.
Well, I spent a lot of time on that stupid app, so
do I.
I hope I get a little bit of honorifics for it.
It's paying off.
So, yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on. We're going to talk to Clint. And Captain, I think you're going to get an education.
Yes, I'm here to learn today
on ESG. I know, Clint, you're kind of like an expert in this shit in a sense. So I'll pick your brain about it,
just because no one knows shit about it.
Yeah.
I want to pick an easy subject. Nobody was.
I get this. This is the interesting part about it, man. Not enough people fucking know about it. Not even you know about it, Chris. That's why I thought this was a good topic.
I read the Twitter files on it today, and quite interesting stuff. It kind of just seems like it's basically like the FBI and CIA had like a Hamilton 68 baby, you know, and they were just like, oh, you shared a China meme, you must be a Chinese asset. Yeah.
It goes way deeper than that.
Oh, man. I'm sure it does. Yeah. I'm gonna get a hell of an education today. I know.
But before we get into all that, man, Clint, why don't you first tell everybody where they could find you, all those good things?
Sure. At Liberty Lockpod on Twitter and Liberty Lockdown everywhere else. I also am a co-host of Tower Gang, so if you search for Liberty Lockdown or Tower Gang or Clint Russell, you should find me. All podcatchers, all video platforms. I'm even back on YouTube by some miracle of God, so you can find me over there, Liberty Lockdown as well. And yeah, just to clarify real quick, ESG is really entirely separate from the Twitter leaks that I've seen so far in terms of the manipulation of terms of service that's coming from the federal government directed through social media. I mean, that is just a 1A violation. ESG is really how big money is manipulating the global economy, usually through central banking and government as well. But it's really it's a separate issue. So I just wanted to clarify that.
That's fine. Yeah, that's what you're here for.
Clint, let me ask you a question before we even get even further down that rabbit hole, because I know it's going to be a rabbit hole, especially for you, Chris. When did you start Liberty Lockdown?
May of 2020.
All right. So as we've covered on this show many times, right? Like if you see a chart,
every guest that we've
how
had
many
on
podcasts are in existence at 2020, the chart goes off the charts.
Yeah,
I think so. Why I'm asking that is because I think not only did the pandemic and all that stuff kind of like spur people to make podcasts, but yours especially, man, I have to really give you credit. You started in 2020 and your show has been so successful that to me it's been a white pill in a sense.
Hell yeah, dude, I love hearing that.
So many people have made podcasts, but not that many have been successful. We're a testament to that.
Yeah.
But I think your ability to like sell the libertarian message to people in that time has really just been a positive. So I just wanted to thank you for that, man. It really is inspiring.
Yeah, well, I'm just carrying on the inspiration that I received from all of our shared heroes, probably Dave Smith most poignantly in the podcast sphere. Seeing him on Rogan 5 years before I started my show was like, oh my God, like my ideas are on the biggest platform out there. It was just so.
There's others like me.
Yes,
so funny. It was just during 2020. Seeing Dave on Rogan is what really like put me into the libertarian camp, like solidly.
Yeah,
one of his episodes where he was talking about like microaggressions or something like that, and it just fucking stuck with me. And
yeah, I mean, for me, I had been a libertarian forever, but just seeing him on at the time was my favorite podcast, and to have him go on there for 3 hours and just it was basically like me being on there. It felt so good. It felt so good to
resonated with you.
Yeah, it felt so good to just hear my ideas and then to realized that he had a successful show and an increasingly successful show over the following years. And I was like, man, if there's a market for this shit, like there's nothing I'm more passionate about. So I might as well throw my hat in the ring. And lockdown's happening, and I was like, all right, I have to throw my hat in the ring. So here we go.
That's where success comes from, that type of passion. And it's good because, being an outsider with libertarian tendencies, and I don't call myself a full-blown libertarian, because I always find the issue with
you're just libertarian positive, not
not
full blown.
right. Because it just drives me nuts to be like the third largest political party and just get such little recognition, to the point where like people don't, like my father to this day, I love him, but like he thinks libertarians are liberals because it just shares a few of the same letters,
the first three letters.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, it's completely different. Like, and I've tried to explain libertarianism, and I am not the person to be explaining it to so many people, and they're just, and like it's just lost on them. And then you try and do anarchism, and we're like, legalize all the drugs, and then you lose everybody. So
sure. Yeah, I mean, it's always a challenge when you're dealing with people that have never really heard the ideology explained in full and in a way that's palatable. So, I've been blessed to now be in a position where I got a lot of people listening to me. So I hope I'm doing a better job of like expressing our ideas in a way that's much closer to what we actually believe in, because there's so many misconceptions about like our belief system. It drives me crazy too.
No, you definitely are, and the numbers show that. So
yeah. There's even a split in the camp right now, I'd say, too, with, the losers in the libertarian movement, which is actually something else I was going to ask you. Maybe we'll get on this first. I've actually asked you about this in previous tweets before, but in person, man, you just went to the Rage Against the War Machine rally, did you not? Right? How was it being in person with everybody there?
It was incredible. I mean, there was no antagonism from anybody. It was just like we're all there for a shared cause, and probably the highest cause. So that's why I came back and onto Twitter and just saw all of the fucking shit throwing from everybody, and I was like this is just so disconnected from my experience, and it was so many virtue signaling fucking losers that were just like, oh, I would never march with communists. And it's like, bitch, are we trying to stop World War III or not? Like, what are you talking about? So that drove me crazy.
Me too, man.
Absolutely.
I was going to compare that to Chris and I went to the Libertarian Party convention here in Connecticut, and it was a great time. Like everybody was super cool. We're smoking cigars, having drinks, talking about, libertarian shit. But then on Twitter, libertarians are fucking impossible sometimes to deal with. Impossible. Like, why do you think that is? I mean, in person, they're super chill, super good time. But on Twitter and on the internet, they're just retards that live in like some sort of theoretical world, not the real world.
Yeah, well, I mean, in fairness, I think that when I do go to events, and I go to a lot now because I travel around speaking, I think there's a lot of people there that don't like me. Like I do think that my haters are there. I just think that they're cowards and they won't ever fucking say anything to my face. So that's my experience with it. But in terms of like actual interactions, like 99.9% of every interaction I have in public is totally positive. And then like there's disagreements. We might get into like autistic debates about borders or whatever the fuck. But I mean, as far as like why we're so contentious, I think that, it's a fringe ideology. So like we're already just used to disagreement, like we're just accustomed to everyone disagreeing with everything we have to say. So and then if you see someone that's like carrying your banner, I'm as guilty as as any of these people. If I see someone carrying our banner and saying, in particular, like what drives me crazy is when they start to talk about like libertarians believe in X, and then it's like a thing that I don't believe in at all, and I'm like, oh, well, I have to engage with this. Like I have to defeat this argument right here and now. Do I have to? No, I don't. But I just feel compelled.
But you want to.
Yeah. So I feel like that's probably how a lot of people feel. And I'm so accustomed to it now because I've grown a big following on Twitter that I have, so many people that will argue with me about everything. And at some point you just have to just stop engaging and just be like, all right, dude.
I feel like you're like the debate me bro guy now. Like you're the guy to go to debate people.
I am, but that's because I love it. You know, I really do enjoy it, and I feel like our ideas are superior. So, like, why wouldn't I be that guy? But also, you know, I'm so sick of us being ignored, and I feel like every time I engage with any of our ideological opposition in public, I can fucking devour them. So I'm just like, let's go, like, bring it on. I want as much as I can get of this, and unfortunately, almost no one will. That's the crazy thing. Like, the only people that want to debate me are people that agree with me on 98% of things. And I'm like, no. I want to debate like people that are dead wrong on like half of their belief system. And those people never step up. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's the problem between Twitter and face-to-face interaction. You know, on Twitter, you could say whatever you want and not get punched in the mouth. And face-to-face, there are consequences. Because I gave up on what you were just saying a long time ago, that Skaggs and I always wish we could really just get some opposition on the show, some bleeding heart liberal.
It's so hard.
Believes climate change is real, is, you know, boosted to the moon, all this shit, just so like we could have a real conversation.
Their hearts can't take it, man.
They have no interest,
or
in
they'll tell you
you.
They'll do it and they cancel on you, like right before the date comes up or something. That's happened to us multiple times. Even people even like friends of ours that we know in real life. We'd be like, hey man, you know, like, why don't you come like sit down here in my cabin and we'll do a podcast and we'll kind of hash shit out. And they'll be like, all right, sure. And then the day before, you know, they'll cancel. I mean, remember I even bought like a really expensive bottle of I think it was Gentleman Jack.
Yes.
I'm like, we're gonna sit around, drink Gentleman Jack with one of our buddies who's a lefty and just talk about stuff. And he bailed on us.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is I'm really capable of having conversations with people I disagree with entirely and keeping it friendly. Like, I can do that too. But like, it's the people that I really want to fuck up are the ones that like will never debate me. You know, like the ones that I really want to, like neocons. I got to debate one, which actually kind of put me on the map because I debated a neocon and I fucking ate him. And I was like, no, no, not him. Some dude years ago. I won't even say his name. It doesn't matter. But
don't promote him.
That's exactly. That's actually what got Dave Smith's attention. Is he saw a clip of that and then he invited me on the show, or I invited him on my show, and then blah blah blah. Rest is history. But
that's awesome.
So that's like, there's like, if you can do it in a way that's really powerful, it's I don't know if there's anything that beats it, honestly. Like, I know it. Some people hate it, and some people say, "Oh, the debate me, bro, lifestyle, blah blah blah." It's like, all right, look, we're in a fucking battle of ideas. We don't have any political power, so like, all I can do is beat your ass verbally. You know? So like, why?
And it just sucks because they run. I mean, that Skaggs and I mean, I assume some part of our original idea was to go out there and change minds and inform people, and I know it's divisive to say, but like, get people to join our camp and our way of seeing things. And that's why, like, at the time he was such a Bernie bro and I was such a Trump guy. Like, they're like, look, we could do this and make a show of it. You could come on and you'll have an ally one way or the other. And it just didn't work out that way. And it's infuriating because you see online so many people just talking out of their ass. And even when you try and destroy them and eat them alive, they just run away, or bots come. So bots come and they're like, "Oh, look at you, a white Christian man who voted for Trump." That has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Well, this is my new favorite out, and I got this one recently. Is like, you know, I can't speak to this guy because like he's not reputable. And I was like, I was like, what are you talking about? You're like,
what level of success do you need to get to be reputable?
Yeah, I'm like, I have 10 times your following. I reached, you know, a couple million downloads last year. Like, okay, you can say that you disagree with my ideas, but this is the liberal argument where it's like, oh no, you can't exchange with these people. It's like the Nick Fuentes thing. They're just persona non grata. You can't even talk to them. I'm like, I'm not that fucking guy. Are you out of your mind? Like, I've never talked about, you know, nationalism or anything like that, or anything with race relations other than when I'm joking on Tower Gang. So I don't even know how they could possibly categorize me that way, but whatever, you know.
You're just guilty by association. A lot of people, you're an inconvenience.
Yeah, they're also so stuck in the binary that they don't understand that there's more than just right nationalists, you know, right-wing nationalist Trump, whatever the fuck they think they are, and left-wing heroes.
Well, 80% of people think I'm fucking a Trump supporter just because I have a red Padres hat turned backwards in my profile pic, and it's like look, I didn't vote for Trump.
That's
All right.
how simple it is. That's how
Yep.
simple it is.
Yeah.
And then even when you start explaining some libertarian tendencies that you support the Second Amendment or whatever, right away you're just this America first, domestic terrorist.
Yeah, but I'm okay with that. Like it.
Oh yeah, I'm fine with the name calling now too.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
like,
I'm
but like
racist. Got it. Cool.
also, if they think I'm America first, like I am
Yeah.
America first. Like I am. If there is such a thing as a libertarian nationalist, that's what I am.
That's funny. I've thought about that term myself a lot. I've
Hmm.
never like said it, but I'm like, libertarian nationalism is kind of a word that hasn't been used, but kind of describes maybe the camp a little bit.
Well, because
in a sense.
here's the justification, or here's the explanation for it. You have, if you believe that all people globally should be free and we should be involved in making them free, that is just a minor skip to neoconservatism.
Yeah.
I mean that is justifying warfare on a scale that no libertarian should
global
be comfortable
scale.
with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not really a nationalist because I don't really believe in a nation, but I do believe in like a community of people that share my values. And if the American population is the closest to my value system, well, then I'm a libertarian nationalist. Like fine. I'm probably more a libertarian statist in the sense that like I would rather have New Hampshire and Florida and Texas and Tennessee and these other decently free states just become their own nations. But I don't give a fuck about any of the labeling. I'm like, look, if you have a problem with it, that's fine. Like I'm very comfortable in my belief system. We can hash it out. You won't, but I'm happy to.
One thing that I've learned via the podcast, via getting wrapped up in identity politics and the immense education that I fell into of the Libertarian Party, I think like it's sooner than later just gonna have to be like I'm political, but I don't have a political party. You know what I mean? Like, because like once, yeah.
I think that's how most people are, honestly.
Because you start talking about your politics, and then like add in, you have to educate people on libertarianism, and then you just whatever picture you paint, or however you convey the message, they take that message and mutate it into whatever they want. And they're like, you're a right-wing psychopath. You're
it's a tall order, man.
Yeah.
We talked about it recently
crazy.
with the Abraham Lincoln
crazy,
stuff.
Man.
And I was like, that's level fucking 10 libertarian anarchist stuff. Like, let's not even talk about that yet. Like, you don't want to lead with Abraham Lincoln was a tyrant. You're not going to really win anybody to your side with that argument as the first thing you say.
It definitely not the first. No, I wouldn't recommend it.
Maybe not the second or third thing either.
Probably not. Probably not.
That's what I'm saying. It's like. Let's get back to the show. So Clint, let's get into ESG, man. I guess just give us your best summary. Like, what exactly is ESG? I don't think enough people know what it is. I don't think enough people have heard the term. I say I know what it is. I've listened to your show. I don't have the best understanding of it, but my co-host here, who does a show with me every week, he has no fucking clue, really.
Yeah,
for the most part, what it is himself. So
that's almost like everything.
That's an example right there that not enough people know about.
Yeah, can't be on top of everything.
No, and I don't blame you. It's all right. So in 2004, the UN, Kofi Annan was the Secretary General at the time. He comes out with this plan, and it's basically to address climate change. They conclude that, all right, we're going to have all nations, or at least all UN nations, on board with some mechanism to address climate change. And they're thinking to themselves like, all right, well, we can't get all of the governments to do this on their own. Like we're going to need business on board. So they reach out. Kofi Annan sends a letter to the 50 biggest CEOs globally. And he says, this is my idea. We want to shift essentially from shareholder to stakeholder capitalism. And we want to make sure that all the industry that's doing business in our nations is focused on the well-being and the welfare of the people that live in these countries. So basically a top-down kind of a communist approach to this
It
thing.
sounds so nice though, like the way you're phrasing
Yeah.
it. You know, like they
Yeah, well,
care. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, of
That's
course,
that's how it always starts with the government.
everything on the left always sounds, you know,
Peachy keen.
it's always sunshine and rainbows, but
Yeah.
the reality of it's a lot uglier. So
The Inflation Reduction Act.
yeah, I'll get into the reality of it. So, anyways, they get Goldman Sachs and Deutsche Bank and J.P. Morgan Chase and all of the biggest money managers on earth respond in the affirmative. They go, "Yeah, that sounds like a fucking great idea," and what it migrates into over time, over the next 5 or 6 years, is this accounting mechanism. It's called ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance. It's these 3 categories. Obviously, E being environment, that'll be like the climate change shit. Social would be more social justice type oriented stuff, and then governance is, the structure of your board. Do you have equitable pay? Do you address sexual harassment claims or rape or whatever that's happening in your business? So those are the 3 categories, and the way that they put teeth to this, because normally the UN just has like bad ideas, but they don't really implement them.
Right.
This was genius, because what they decided to do is they want to have big business, the big finance, the highest level of finance, the guys who manage trillions and trillions of dollars. They want them to only deploy that capital to private businesses or publicly traded businesses that are functioning under the parameters that ESG says are acceptable. And because
Nothing shady there.
Yeah, because they get BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, some of the biggest money managers on earth, that it's not really their capital, but they have tens of trillions of dollars under management. They get them on board. And then you have Larry Fink, who's espousing it in his annual shareholder to newsletters, or his annual newsletter to shareholders. He is the CEO of BlackRock, who manages more money than anybody on earth, as far as I know. And he's at the fucking vanguard. He's pushing this hard as hell. So once you have that, all of the wokeness that you've seen within our economy, within advertising, within our employment structure, that all comes about as a byproduct of ESG, and it was intentional. And then you add into that the bottom up. So this is the top down. The bottom up is DEI. It's diversity, equity, and inclusion parameters that are put into HR at corporate levels, where they start to talk about all this Marxist garbage that's being taught in college. It's now being implemented in the business world once again. So all of the idea fuckery that was happening in academia is now coming from a pincer attack, where you have the top and the bottom both coming down and creating basically a Marxist worldview, but not Marxist in the sense that it's a class struggle, but rather a racial struggle or a gender struggle, or
they redefined it.
Yeah. But it's just an evolution of Marx, really.
Interesting.
Who is like the key players behind this whole thing? I know you mentioned Fink, but currently, and Kofi Annan kind of kicked it off. And man, that was a long time ago, 2004. You said, right? So this has been in the works for a long time. I just remember
20 years.
I remember 2000 and maybe 17 or 18, me hearing James Lindsay talk about this and kind of like shaking up, like, I don't know, but now
already it's been around for 18
completely
years.
Correct, a few years later.
Yeah, no, he nailed it. James Lindsay and Adam Curry of No Agenda were the 2 guys that were like really put this in my brain and made me focus on it. Because of my finance background, I was like, oh, I understood this immediately. I was like, wow, this is fucking dangerous. So that's why I made it such a big part of my show. I was like, I gotta more in the world.
So question. So if we're going to butcher this. So if you own this corporation and you will no longer receive financing from Vanguard or like JP Morgan and Chase or whatever, if you don't start implementing these SEC, aka woke policies in your HR and in your financial plan and being on board. So they basically just hold you hostage as like a Fortune 500 company coercive. To go woke. Yeah, basically it's not that they're not going to lend you money, it's that they're not going to buy shares of your stock. So your market value will tank. So it's right. And they're usually the biggest market shareholders for
they are.
Company. Yeah.
State Street, Vanguard, and BlackRock own.
Right.
I mean, they're the primary shareholders of almost every big business in America, if not the world. So but again, this is our capital. This is like retirees and working people's capital. It's in their retirement plans, and these guys are managing it. So they don't have the right as a fiduciary to be investing in this fashion. And this is the other thing I understood, because I was a fiduciary, because I was a mortgage broker and I managed hundreds of millions of dollars. And I knew like this, they are violating their fiduciary oath to their investors. So that's the other reason that I made it a big part of my show, is like, I wanted people to understand that not only are you being abused and led astray and having your entire foundation of your civilization basically undermined, but you're also having your money being managed in my opinion, criminal fashion.
Right.
Criminal. Because it's not
the objective is to
the
make
best
money.
returns.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
The objective of investment is to make money, but
that wasn't their focus.
Right. Yeah.
And
they're
is
forcing
illegal.
you to invest in a culture. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I
got that right.
Yeah. I remember I used to work for a bank, right? And I got that talking to once. It's like, you didn't do your fiduciary responsibility.
Yeah.
I mean, like at a local level.
You have to
bank,
put your
but-
investors' interests above your own. And that is like key. And if you don't do that, you should go to jail. Like, that's my honest opinion. So as far as I'm concerned, Vanguard just backed off, which God bless them. I hope that they're serious. The CEO of Vanguard, I don't even know his name, but he came out with some sort of newsletter or article a week ago saying, we realize that this is a violation of our fiduciary duty to our investors. And I was like, holy shit. Like, I was right. This is awesome.
So when Elon bought Twitter, would basically the previous board of Twitter have been in the same boat?
Well, I think that they clearly were violating their fiduciary duty to their shareholders, because they were destroying their business seemingly intentionally, but they weren't doing it because of ESG necessarily.
Right.
I mean, it could have been, though. It could have been because primary shareholders, if you're not aware of Twitter before Elon bought it, BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard.
Yeah.
So it could have been ESG, but it's also, this is what makes it so convoluted. You have the ESG incentive that's in the system, but then you also have these fucking lunatic lefties that are like true believers, and they're like, no,
idiots. Yeah,
we don't need free speech. Like, Donald Trump is a danger.
Chop your kid's dick off.
We should be banning the speech of conservatives. Like, that is because they're fascists and they're dangerous, and it's like speech is dangerous to these people. So yeah, I mean, it's very hard to like know for sure.
I think Twitter too, like, they weren't necessarily not being responsible to their, doing their financial duty, because I felt like their real investor was the state, with the Twitter files and all that stuff.
So they were just following,
on its surface, we have this fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders. I used to own Twitter stock, but really, we saw the Twitter files, the stuff going on behind the scenes, and now there was even investment to a certain extent by the FBI. A few $1 million, I think it was, paying them for like
$6 million.
That's not much money, but cozying up to the state is a huge investment. So
yeah, well, and this is the other reason I wanted to make this a big part of the show, is because I'm so sick of hearing libertarians defend big business without taking this into consideration.
Right.
Like they just simply have kind of a blue-pilled attitude when it comes to big business. And I'm trying to like connect these dots for them and say, look, if you hate the state, you have to hate the big businesses that are in bed with the state. And all of big tech is in bed with the state. So fuck them. Like, don't carry water for them. Don't say, oh, it's a private company, they can do what they want. No. They're fucking taking explicit, and I didn't even know this at the time for sure, but I knew it for sure.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I knew that they were getting their fucking marching orders by some government institution. There's no way that you see every big tech platform all nuke Alex Jones within a 24-hour period if it's not a dictate on high. So as soon as you see shit like that, you don't have to have the fucking evidence. Just use your goddamn brain. But so many libertarians were unwilling. They're still like, no, it's private business. Fuck Alex Jones. He lied about those kids. He should be banned. It's like, no. This comes for all of us. If you don't fucking recognize that, you're not my ally. You're a danger to me, because you're now giving lip service in defense of our owners, of our rulers. Like, what are you doing? So yeah, that's why
I don't know if it was you maybe who said it, or someone was like, what do you think? Like, when they like finally get this authoritarian regime that they really want, like the outright one, they're going to be like, oh no, wait, you're a libertarian, you're not a MAGA person, we'll let you go. They're going to classify anyone who is in opposition to
100% compliance.
And for the record, they're coming for the fucking lefties too that aren't down with this shit. So like, this is where I actually do find myself in alignment with the Marxist speak about it's like it's us versus them. Like it is. It is,
Yeah.
but it's not the people with the money, it's the people with the power. Sure, sometimes the money and the power overlap, but it's not always the case. Like I have money. I have no power in the political realm.
Right.
I am an enemy to them on so many fronts. I was audited constantly as an entrepreneur and a sole proprietor business owner in California. They were hunting me, so like we're talking about the 0.001%, and everybody at that highest level of income, ultimately they are in bed with the government, because you can no longer get to that level if you aren't playing ball with the government. Elon's a good example. He's the richest man on earth. How did he do it? He did it by fucking getting massive government contracts and
The
subsidies.
SpaceX stuff, right? The subsidies.
Massive subsidies. And it's like, look, I'm still not even saying Elon's a bad guy. He might be a good guy. Maybe he is, but he played the game. He played the game, and you cannot get to the highest level if you don't play the game. And that means that you can't really be an ally to us unless you like do a total face change, which maybe he's done. Maybe he has made himself an enemy of the state genuinely. I hope so. But we don't know that yet.
Remains to be seen.
The jury's still out on him. I'm enjoying him for what he is right now, but the day that bad news drops, he's right back on the chopping block.
I completely agree.
And I think that's how it should be. Anybody in the limelight, Trump, anyone.
Yeah.
What getting back to the ESG, man, like what is your thoughts on like what exactly is the end game of all that shit? I know there's like their stated goals, which is like, yay, we're gonna help everybody and make everything
the climate,
good.
yeah.
But we know that's not the real fucking deal. Like, what is the actual end game that they're looking for with this stuff?
I think it's very similar to the CCP model for state-based economy. Like they want to have every big business globally directly under the thumb of the government. And the reason that they structured it in this fashion, and it's genius. Like I hate them, but it's genius, is that if you have private businesses doing it, it circumvents basically the Bill of Rights in America and any sort of rights that are allegedly granted to the people in whatever nation we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And it allows them to have the government dictate how big businesses will behave, and the censorship that'll be implemented, and the narratives that'll be pushed, and the algorithms that'll be set. I mean, it is like the linchpin of narrative control. It's everything. So that's their plan. And I think that, obviously if they were tremendously successful in that regard, then it evolves into, because of the economic tumult that I expect to see with fiat currencies over the next decade, I think that they'll be migrating into central bank digital currencies. Then you have the COVID lockdowns and how they had the medical health passes and the green passes and things like that. It's all part of the same picture. And to your earlier question about, who really propagated this, it was actually the World Economic Forum that really pushed ESG.
Shocking.
Because they had all of the biggest businessmen on earth and the biggest, most powerful politicians from every major nation on earth going out to Davos every year. And what do? They sat around these big tables, and they just say like, this is what we're doing. This is what you're all doing. Aren't you? Of course you are. You want to have a good relationship with, the Bank of England, right, or whoever. So that's how they propagated the narrative. And because you have a bunch of lefties that have been educated into thinking that, anthropogenic climate change is ultimately the most dangerous thing we face, it wasn't even a hard sell. And it's genius shit.
Yeah, they've been co-opted in a sense. I think one of the things, just like looking at it from a macro point of view, I think they're really trying to force the marketplace of everything into a certain sector or a certain area where they're the investor. They own everything, so that's why they don't want the gas and all that stuff. Like that's why they're so heavily invested in some of the green stuff. Like they already have their flag planted in that shit, and now they're trying to use every leverage, every mechanism possible to force it into that area so that they control everything. What are you gonna say, Chris?
Well, like Clint was just saying, like, a future of like a socialized economy, and stuff like that, where we talk about we don't want to give up our gas stoves. Why? Because you could turn off an electric stove. Why don't you want to drive a Tesla? Because they could turn off your car. Why do they want socialized economy? Because when you get banned from Twitter, you also get banned from your bank account.
Right.
Did
you guys just see the I think Rogan shared this, the fucking Ford electric F-150 can repossess itself if you don't make
Oh,
the
I
payments.
read about that. Yeah, I read about that.
That's
I mean,
crazy. Imagine like, you
course.
don't pay your lease. The car just turns on and leaves your house and goes back to the dealership. Sorry. What's up, everyone? It's Skaggs, and I'm here to tell you about a new partner of ours, the Patriot Cigar Company. Now, I don't know about you, but I like to casually enjoy a good cigar with a nice glass of bourbon, especially during the fall months. The Patriot Cigar Company just launched their first 5 cigars, including the Hellfire, TNT, Mark 48, and Moab. Each cigar is handmade with premium tobacco that is aged a minimum of 3 years in Nicaragua. The best part about it is that you can go to mypatriotcigars.com and use our promo code DOOMED for 15% off your purchase. So if you're ready to sit back and enjoy a nice cigar around the campfire, head on over to their website and see what they have to offer using the link in our episode description below.
We have a liftoff.
Well,
You
and
will literally
but,
own nothing.
But see, that's not the issue though. The issue is not if you don't pay. The issue is if you say something fucked
Right.
up on social media and they impound your
right.
car.
Yep.
That's the real scary shit. And that
I was-
don't get it twisted that that's
Yeah.
not the ultimate
Yeah.
plan. They want to have the capacity to fucking ruin your life without putting you in prison. It's a digital gulag. Forget the gulags of the USSR. They're not going to be putting us in prison. They're going to be putting us into an electronic prison. So
Smart
that's
cities.
what's coming.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they just shut everything up. There was oh man, it was Seth MacFarlane. One of his recent shows where it was like the Star Trek spoof show. The
I hate that
Orville.
show.
The Orville, yes. There
Me
you go.
too, man. I don't like it. Yeah, I've kind of got turned off.
There was one episode where they went to a society that was based on your popularity on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the crew members took a picture with a statue, and he didn't know what the statue represented, and like it tanked his social credit score. And like the world economy of this planet was like, yeah, well, you're not going back to your ship. You're going to be put in prison forever. You have to go on this apology tour. We're going to cancel you. A digital prison makes sense. You have no access to your money, no access to your car, no access to heat, no access to cook your food. Just starve you out of your own house till you literally just laying on the sidewalk dying.
Yeah,
and then you probably get in trouble for dying on the sidewalk.
And the key here is like, it's not that they want you to die. It's that they want you to shut up.
Comply. They want you to comply.
Exactly.
It always, every time we talk about the World Economic Forum or what's the end game or you know, why are they getting involved in this, or the problems with extreme leftism, it comes down to 110% compliance. There is no other answer. There is no other way. You comply, and that is it.
Yeah, they're really trying to emulate the Chinese Communist Party model, right?
Yes.
Did you guys watch Westworld at all?
First season, that was it.
I forget if it's like maybe the 3rd season. I mean, did it real well, I felt, where they had, you know, there was an AI involved, super smart AI that was kind of running everything, but everybody had like this app on their phone that was kind of like monitoring what they were doing and giving them tasks like, hey, you know, there's this criminal here. Like if you could go like round them up, you'll get like plus 500 credit on your, you know, your social credit score, literally, like the show.
Yeah.
Thought it was a really good representation of like what that could look like. So especially if you put like an artificial intelligence kind of behind it to manage the X's and O's.
Look, you don't even need the sci-fi. It's happening in China right now.
Yeah.
You know, like what they have their
just-
model, and they're very pro it. They like if you've heard Klaus Schwab or Trudeau talk about Xi Jinping, they're like, yeah, that's the shit right there. Like that's what these motherfuckers want. They can you know, doll it up with all their fucking flowery, you know, it's about equity and da da da. It's like none of that shit matters to them. These people want full panopticon control of the everyman. And as an everyman, I take that personally. And I don't understand why more people don't. And it's like, that's the only reason I stopped you guys going down the sci-fi route, is like, I don't want people thinking this is some distant.
True. That's a very good
Fair
point.
enough.
You know, this is now, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Like, this is right now. It is happening today, and it's been happening for years. And most people have been completely asleep to it. And God bless that more people are waking up. But like, we don't have time. Like, we have to be activists on this issue right now, because they're gonna be hitting us. If we're fortunate enough to dodge World War III, then they're gonna be migrating right into the fucking climate change lockdowns. It's gonna be just boom, 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 one after the other, and everybody has to be on board now, so that when they start to see the new narrative come out, they can actually identify it and go like, oh, Clint told me about this shit a year and a half ago. I'm not falling for this one. So that's my hope.
I see this. I see this, and I kind of hope. Chris, do you remember, man? It was maybe now 2 years ago, probably. And I told you about critical race theory for the first time. And I'm like, hey, let's have on Professor Nick Giordano. You know, you know, and I'm like, let him talk to us about it. You didn't know about it. I felt like no one knew about it. But man, that term and that thing has exploded.
Yeah.
And everyone knows about it. People are, you know, the mama bears at the schools, and, you know, what DeSantis is doing and all these things and all these different ways of kind of trying to combat it. It exploded. I hope that ESG is the next critical race theory, at least in terms of people's minds. Yeah.
It's already here, man.
Not that
it's going to be carried out. I mean, like, I hope it's
no. I'm saying it's already here. It's already here in the narrative. I mean, you have DeSantis doing hour-long pressers about it. Like, there's a lot of people talking about. There was no one talking about it when I first started talking about it, other than like
it's the beginning.
Lindsay. So like it's already picking up steam. But like what I would like people that are listening to do is like, now you need to know about DEI, which is diversity, equity, inclusion. And then after that, you need to learn about sustainable development goals, because that's the UN's version of ESG. And it's basically
like whether smart city, right?
Yeah, whether they go away from ESG or not, like it's just going to be rebranded as SDG,
something else,
Sustainable Development Goals. So like everybody has to be aware of that one. So it's like because they're fucking academics and they're just constantly creating these acronyms for their bullshit theories. Like we unfortunately have to know their game plan so that we can try and defeat it.
Yeah, you said something just a moment ago of you're every man, and you can't believe that like there's not more people on your side waking up to this shit at a more rapidly paced. It's people are afraid of conflict. People are afraid of freedom.
Yep.
The three of us, and everybody in the Patriot podcast community, and everyone we've come across with the different podcasts, we truly are a different breed of person. For the majority of people who have been vaccinated and who have not been vaccinated, to sit through COVID for the past 3 years and not buy into a single percentage of the psyop says a lot about who you are.
Yeah.
But those people are built differently. The rest of the world is just these meek little individuals who don't want any confrontation. Yes, daddy, I'll stick it in my arm. Blah, blah, blah. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And it
Jordan
doesn't
Peterson's
matter.
one of them.
Not the rule. What was that? Who?
I said Jordan Peterson's one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, he was so courageous when it came to like, I will not abide by your gender pronoun specific demands on me. Like, I know where this goes because I've read Solzhenitsyn and I understand the Gulag Archipelago and I know where this goes. But when it came to this fucking medical health propaganda push, he still caved. He's like, I got your vaccine. Now leave me alone. That's what he said. And I was like, damn, dude, like this guy, like, why couldn't he extrapolate the same take a stand? It matters now, but he didn't do it. So like,
different strokes for different folks, man. That's all it takes.
I still love and respect the guy. I'm not even trying to like throw him under the bus by bringing this up. I'm just saying that just because you are red pilled to a certain extent doesn't mean that you're one of us. Like there's like 10% of the population that is really just like, I am never going to go along with what you are trying to propagandize me into. Like, I have a belief system that is so well founded, you cannot propagandize me. It's impossible. I'm like, and I know this for whatever reason, this like really works with a lot of libertarians because of their autism or whatever the fuck. Like, same with marketing. Like, marketing has never worked on me. Marketing doesn't seem to work on the libertarians either. It's just like there's some different formulation in our worldview that makes us like impervious to any sort of psyop. It's awesome.
You're like an old soul. You don't buy the bullshit because you don't see the value in the bullshit to begin with. Like, I've always run into this problem with different jobs I've worked. Like, I'm not going to sell my soul and be the poster child mascot for company A and rah, company A is great. Oh, I'm going to die for company A. No, motherfucker. At Friday at 5:00, pay me my fucking check and let me out that goddamn door. Like, it just, for certain people, it's not gonna ever stick, and it's just the way you're built, you know.
Yeah.
And
It's just a disagreeableness really is important.
And you could sniff out bullshit. You think for yourself. It's a different thought pattern. It's a different form of emotions. It's not that I want your grandma to die, but I'm not going to do shit on my end for your grandma. You know what I mean? Like,
In fairness, I might help her cross the street, but I'm not putting something in my fucking body for her.
Within reason. Yes, within reason. Am I going to stop the dude robbing her? Right. Am I going to try and trip up the dude stealing her purse? Cool. Yeah. But am I going to go and fight some war in Ukraine because your grandma said so?
Hell no.
My dick. No.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, I mean, that could be the fucking thing down the pipe here. You know, what Zelensky said the other day?
Yeah,
you know, it's going to be American
Good luck with that,
daughters that are going to be fighting in this war if it expands to NATO. Like, no, I don't think fucking so. Yeah, I really don't.
None of us are going. I know that.
Daughters,
yeah. One of the most important things, man. I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but we saw Scott Horton give a speech at the Libertarian Party convention here in Connecticut.
Didn't you speak at that, Clint?
He did. You did actually. You did speak at it
in Connecticut.
Through April. Zoom though. I think. Yeah.
Oh, maybe
Zoom. Yeah.
I don't know, dude. I do so many of these things I can't even remember.
Yeah, I'm sure
that's
they
where
all
I want to be
merged together. Yeah, I remember Scott said something along the lines of like they need the conservatives to fight the war. It's like the conservatives who serve in the military. They're the ones who are the need to be propagandized.
He's not wrong.
I just think that's so valuable that everyone needs to be aware of that. Yeah. Especially with Ukraine and now with I'm gonna have to listen to what you and Garrett were talking about before, Cap, because I gave you that point. But with China, especially like China's the blind spot for China, for the conservatives, right?
Well, if you've noticed my Twitter over the past week, I like half of the things I've been putting out are about like how the right is so prone and so ready to fall for the next psyop when it comes to China, and it's just like I'm trying to get in front of this one. Like everyone was. Obviously, I've been privy to it for a long time, but like I didn't think that there was a real chance they'd try and do a dual front fucking world war against the two other biggest nuclear powers with the most people on Earth. It's like there's no way they'd be that fucking stupid. But as soon as they start talking about it, I'm like, all right, now I see the narrative shift. Like here we go. As soon as they start talking lab leak theory and it's confirmed, the FBI says so. I'm like, so we are gearing up for a fucking dual front world war with nuclear powers. Are you out of your fucking minds?
Because their money's on the line. Their money's on the line. That's what it comes down to.
This was the point I was gonna. I'm sure you made it to Garrett today, Chris, when you recorded earlier. So I'll listen to it later. But Clint, with them now, I think the Senate voted unanimously, right, to what was it? Investigate the origins of COVID, release the information. You know, like they don't do anything partisan anymore. I feel like it's a limited hangout situation where they know something is coming out and they are going to use the right wing's skepticism of the whole thing to try and propagandize into them. Like, look, it's China's fault that this all happened. Therefore, when the war happens, the conservatives then will be on their side in order to fight the war, right? Because the Chinese Communist Party,
because
they released the virus on the world, right? It's all their fault, and they'll obfuscate, and people will forget that it was Fauci, the NIH, all these things. Do you think that could be why now they're kind of like changing their tune?
100%, dude. Like look here, I'll tell you how we know if it's a real disclosure or not. Are they going to show the contracts signed from Anthony Fauci to Peter Daszak to EcoHealth Alliance to the Wuhan Institute of Virology? Are they going to show that? And then are they going to put him on trial for the rest of his life? Because that's the only way I'll believe this is real. If you don't do that, then this is pure, unadulterated war propaganda. That's it. That's all it will be. So I hope I'm wrong. You know,
me too.
Rarely am I wrong, but I would love to be wrong and see them actually put Anthony Fauci on trial. Say, look, we shouldn't have been doing this research. Fauci's out of his fucking mind. He's going to jail for the rest of his life, and we're gonna, punish the Chinese because they were involved in this research. Then I'd be like, all right, maybe they're actually just trying to clean up their act. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think Fauci's going to fucking sail off into retirement, and then they're gonna have a Cold War against China for God knows how long, and we just have to pray that it doesn't go hot. I
really do hope that you're wrong, and
me
I'm wrong too. But man, I'm getting anxious and I'm getting impatient. Where the fuck is the Fauci files with Twitter, right? Where the fuck is Rand Paul's calling him to account? Like that hasn't happened yet. Maybe it still might happen, but it hasn't happened fast enough for me. I'm starting to get concerned that he is slipping away. Fauci needs any sort of accountability. Yeah,
I agree. I say it at least once a month. It's like this dude needs to be in prison forever. Like I am so 100% convinced that this is a product. The last 3 years are a product of his malfeasance almost directly. And there's a hell of a lot of more people that ought to be in prison for the rest of their lives. But like that guy's got to go. Like if you want this nation to survive, the guy who fucking destroyed the world has to go to jail forever. And I feel like that's a compromise position. I feel like I'm being a moderate. So
yeah, someone's got to pay, right? A head, metaphorically speaking, not literally, a head needs to roll, right? Someone, so in a sense, so
metaphorically,
yeah, if that even makes any sense.
There
Chris,
you
any
go,
other
YouTube.
questions? Or
No, man, this has been quite interesting. From what I read about ESG, just it wasn't even close to what was explained today. But
it's weird. You're right, because every time I read about it, it's like this like distilled down, kind of sanitized version of what it is, and like I don't know what,
because it's still big tech protecting its investors.
You're
at the end of
reading
the
what
day.
they want you to think it is, in a sense.
But
where are you reading it from? The internet.
But see, here's the thing,
and on top of it, the what was it? The DEI that you diverse, like that's something new too. Now we need to have a whole nother episode about that shit.
Well, James Lindsay is the one that really has hammered that, and that's a curriculum level thing for public education, but it's also being implemented in HR when it comes to hiring and firing practices and setting sort of like work environment shit. So it's super nefarious. It's super deep rooted at this point. It's across basically every Fortune 500 company. Like anytime you have to go to your work, if you work for one of these big companies, and anytime they have you sit down and talk about your race and your implicit bias or whatever the fuck, how you're evil because you're white or how you're a victim because you're black or whatever, like all of that is DEI, all of it. Right. It's the transition from CRT, critical race theory in the education system, all the way up to DEI in the employment system. It's it's dark, but like every time, like here's the weird thing. I've done panels with other people that are like in my lane when it comes to ESG. And even when they talk about it, it's like so sanitized. Like they're just like, there's just like people with like good instincts, but like they're off the beaten path. And like, this is probably something we shouldn't be doing. And I'm up there like, this is 1984 shit, folks. Like this is the end of everything if we don't defeat it. And it's perplexing to me that more people can't see like, oh, this is where this is obviously going.
So I even in the libertarian camp, there is like a resistance to wanting to get involved in this because it's kind of like tied to the culture war in an aspect. And libertarians don't want to get involved in that for whatever reason.
They're making a huge mistake.
They are, but that also is a white pill because you, to a sense, kind of have. And you've been successful because you have. And we should not just sit on the fucking sidelines.
No, we have to be in front of these things like this. Like whether you want to be in the culture war or not, like ESG is no.
Right,
ESG is tremendously important, and it's completely counter to libertarian philosophy and ideology. So on a principled stance, while avoiding the culture war, you can still call out how evil this shit is because it's big business in bed with big government. Libertarians aren't fascists. We fucking hate that shit. That's what I'm describing. This is fascism. So like you don't have to be like going down the culture route if you don't want to. I think you ought to, but if you don't want to, that's fine. Just fucking talk about ESG in its own right and how crazy it is. So yeah, but the other thing about it too is like it's really important that we be the front line of all of these things that I talk about on my show, is because like the whole reason that Ron Paul had such a lasting impact on our civilization and our culture is because he was early and he was consistent and he beat that drum even when everyone was calling him fucking crazy. And then when it came true, now all of a sudden, all of his clips,
now he's a hero. Yeah,
2005, 2006, they're all going viral all over again, and they go viral every fucking day forever.
Anytime, man. I share sometimes the video of him talking about the FBI and like abolishing the FBI and all that stuff. That is one of the most successful videos I ever post. And it doesn't matter. I every like year or so I repost, and then it gets like thousands of views, likes, etc. It really resonates. And that was from like the 80s, I think.
Well, and then his
it's how long they've been at this.
His 2003, 2004, real estate bubble warnings from the congressional House floor, powerful. I mean, he nails it. And like, because I am like the way I envision myself is that I'm carrying his torch. Like I'm not putting myself on his level, but I'm like, I am fucking carrying that torch because he lit a fire in me and I intend to fucking keep that flame going. So when I talk about this shit, like I bring not just that passion, but also that same courage and that same like foresightedness so that I can just say, look, I know I sound crazy now. I know I do, but I'm right. And you'll see that I'm right. And when you see that I'm right, you're going to take everything that I had to say that you thought was completely batshit crazy. You're going to take it real seriously soon, huh? So that's how we actually break the narrative. That's how we fucking break people's minds open and have them start to consider our ideology on a broader level. And I feel like the cowardice that is the old guard of the LP, you're dying, and you're dying for good reason. You're not ever going to reach anybody by being a pussy when it matters most. So there you go. I'll get off my fucking soapbox.
And God bless Ron Paul, man. He is still doing it to this day. He's still got his show. He's still, he's active on Twitter and whatnot.
He's the fucking man, dude.
So God bless him, man. And Clint, I appreciate you, man. You have been a major source of inspiration for me personally.
Well, thank you, man. And, I literally, like, anytime I can fucking spread that same inspiration and passion that was given to me, it means the world to me, man. So keep going.
Thank you, man. Thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate making some time for us.
Boom.
Wow. All right, Chris, sign us off, buddy.
All right, Doom Nation. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. As always, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We got a ton of great stuff coming up. Some more bonus episodes with me and Garrett. Clint, thank you so much for coming on.
Go follow Liberty Lockdown.
Yeah, do that too.
Yes, do that. Thank you. All right, guys. Adios.